You see, this is the absolute tosh that we have to put up with this Labour Party. You know, I really think that when you look at the Welsh government, they really are literally like post office workers, but in government. It's even worse under Starmer. This current Labour Party, it's almost like Mr. Bean or something. They're almost like post office workers, but even more dangerous because they dabble in wars, and also they're kind of like charmed by all this tech and the World Economic Forum and then the pandemic, taking advice from all these professionals that they chose to side with and so forth. The whole tech kind of charm, and they're almost like, it's like Dad's Army or something. It's almost like the post office meets Dad's Army and Mr. Bean, but yet the combination of those elements, when you add it together, it's like Banana Man villains. The current Labour Party, including Starmer, they're like Banana Man villains, like the Weatherman, who are quite actually dangerous people. They're kind of sinister and dangerous, but in a very kind of Mr. Bean-like way, where they're not quite intelligent enough to know that what they're doing is stupid. So apparently, right, the new Chancellor is, going on now about Britain's growth and obsessed with building, except Britain is a mess. The whole problems with London are because of overbuilding. The country's not even big enough, really, to build too much. They're already ruined places. They've ruined our town centre by repeatedly building over it, and then they weren't happy what they built with, then they built over it again, then they weren't happy what they built, and then they built over it again. Why is it that there are towns and villages, even old cities around this country, that haven't changed for millennia because they didn't need to be? They were happy with them, they liked them. The type of places where Labour voters have been a majority, like Manchester, here, Newcastle, London, those places aren't just built up. They rebuild them, then 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 rebuild them again. And they're never happy, and they end up like a complete, total mess. There's no style, there's no theme to them. Places that were built all right in the first place are still the same because there's nothing actually wrong with them. And people are happy there. And then another thing, here she says, get Britain building again, right? To get Britain building. So through the pandemic, all highways workers, all the roads work, all of the care, Balfour beat me, all of the construction were given special key worker status to carry on straight through, right? Carry on with roadworks, carry on with projects. Boris Johnson with his builder's hat on, right? They didn't stop building. And even builders who were building houses and doing building projects carried on as well. In fact, they didn't take a break like everyone else. They weren't locked down. They were key workers, key for this strategy that the Conservatives were doing, key for the strategy that the Labour are doing, because it's the same strategy. Get Britain building. It didn't stop building. In fact, these key workers to their master plan haven't stopped. So they're talking absolute tosh. They kept everything going the whole way through. And these people are addicts. They've got problems. They've got eating disorders. They've got addiction problems. They're mesmerised and charmed by tech, which is done mainly for the sake of it. And they're the ones who build it. They're the ones who make it, and the claim all along is that they're poor, they've got nothing. yeah, Labour voters are the most likely people to go on a cruise. Labour voters are the most likely people to go on holidays. Labour voters are the most likely people to have a motorhome or a caravan. Labour voters are the most likely people to be seen in a supermarket or a little bit of a full shopping trolley. It just doesn't add up. It doesn't weigh up. They're actually just completely, totally bluffing and blagging it. And the results from the French election, even when the public vote against these people, then the people who stand up for seat then sit back down again. If you were a candidate and you stand, right, you've stood. If you say, I will stand, I will be a candidate, you're voting for yourself, right? So, with all different rounds of voting, you don't pull out because you've already cast your vote. When you register for an election as a candidate, you're voting for yourself, right? You've nominated yourself. You don't if you're having different rounds of voting or whatever, you don't pull out halfway through, particularly in order for another party to win. Because when you said you will stand, and when your name is officially registered, that's it. You have elected and nominated yourself. Now, if someone withdraws because they're ill, that's a medical right. If someone withdraws because, they're injured or something like that or whatever, then fair enough. There are many other different legitimate reasons, but in England, in the law for elections, they've got this law that says if there's any widespread disruption in the election, right, that's why you have an election petition to investigate. All of mass numbers, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, all these French candidates who have pulled out uniformly to achieve a goal, that is an election, that is a corrupt and illegal practice. It's a corrupt and illegal practice. By our election rules in England, the law, that is a election disruption, because it's actually also, it's influencing the outcome of an election after you've cast your vote for yourself. Then you're more, you can't unvote, particularly unvote for someone who's not even standing. It's all wrong. Starmer's post office staff, Mr. Bean, villains from Banana Man, literally, they're extremely dangerous because they're not quite intelligent enough in the law. His Crown prosecutors aren't doing procedure properly. They're unlawfully bringing prosecutions. They're unlawfully bringing actions. They're actually acting illegally. They can be prosecuted under law themselves. And they're under this complete and total enchantment by tech, which I think Starmer's under by the WEF. I think, it's got something to do with this weird Privy Council oath. And a lot of these women, such as this woman here, they are under the spell of it. We don't want to be overbuilding in this country because Australia, Russia and America have got ridiculous amounts of space compared to us, and even India that's bigger for the population. It's just scary. This government is scary. Some of these people aren't actually competent or capable to be in these government positions. They're not competent and capable to serve on government. Once you actually start to understand the law and procedure, the more and more you learn that these people who are in these positions don't understand it, like Max Hill. And actually, even if they did, they're just opposed. And they don't even want to comply with it, because then really the excuse in their mind is they don't agree with it. We've never been in a more dangerous time. There's nothing to celebrate here at all. There's actually nothing to celebrate. And, you know, all the people who voted for Labour, so what, was only 59% turnout, and then when you fit the Lib Dems and Green Party into that, and with people who voted for Reform, who were ripped off, and it didn't really turn, the people who voted for Reform, really, the electoral system set up against them. The Labour Party have got nothing to be proud of. They don't have half the nation behind them still. They don't have half the nation, and the only reason they're in is because the Tories made a complete, absolute mess, and the, you know, swing voters who are, they don't even believe in anything, swing voters. If 1 minute you're voting for the Conservatives and the next minute you're voting for Labour, you aren't grounded. You know, at least the people who voted for Labour the whole time through, you know, at least they're only voting for Labour because, you know, well, they've never voted for anyone else. And to be honest, you know, it is like a football team. And the thing with a football team is the supporters and fans stay with the team even when they're doing terrible, even when they're losing. Loyal fans stick with the team. And we are losing. The nation is losing to these elitists who have been making a complete mess of our health, of the state of the country, the whole time through. And these people will still turn up and chant. Worse. It's worse than football, because at least if you support a football team, and even if they're doing, you know, terrible, you know, like, you know, Chelsea, or Crystal Palace or whatever, you know, even people who are absolutely dedicated to a football team, even if it was relegated, they'll still stick with it and wear the shirts and buy the tickets because they're loyal fans, even if they're getting thrashed. And we are getting thrashed by these people. But worse than that, these voters who voted the Labour in are actually worse. They're scabs, really. You know, all the time when the Labour voters used to call people scabs through the working, you know, through the pit, right? Through the pit, through the miners' strikes, Arthur Scargill. These Labour voters, they are Tory scabs. They're Tory scabs who are now voting Labour. And people who actually voted for Labour used to call their own people scabs, you know? So they're actually full of Tory scabs. And they used to call people scabs, did Labour, as shame, right? These people don't believe in anything. They're literally, it's like a Mexican wave, you know? A Mexican wave, but not even a good one. It's the worst Mexican wave ever. Starmer is nothing to be proud of because, you know, look at the state of France. Putin's on the verge of wanting to go to war. They've got a war in the Middle East, and 1 minute they're telling us to donate to other countries, right? We've got to do this and that. But now Starmer's going, oh, you know, now we're going to build England. Oh, I thought we were donating to abroad. I thought there was an emergency. Oh, well, now we're going to start back to building. Well, no, not back to building, Keir. Why lie? Why have we got a Chancellor who lies? Oh, now we're going to do some building. No, Chancellor, you never stopped building. You were building the whole way through. Builders were given a key worker status and carried straight on through, as the Highways Department carried straight on through. Why lie? Why do we have to have these post office worker women who are enchanted under delusions by people like Keir Starmer just because he seems, oh, I'm a professional, I'm a Crown prosecutor, and now I'm a Prime Minister, Sir Keir Starmer. He doesn't, he's a terrible Crown prosecutor. So what if he led the CPS? Max Hill led the CPS. He was clueless about the law just for putting a notice up and painting a sign, regardless of whether he liked it or not. He got 2 complete full acts of law that he either didn't know about or purposely disregarded. What right is that when he's got procedure to follow? Keir Starmer is not a good lawyer. He isn't a good lawyer, and he's not a good leader of a party either, or a country. He's an extremely dangerous man because he isn't a good lawyer, but yet he is charmed and enchanted by the veneer of technology and what it can offer. And then I don't think he likes England. You can't actually like or love England if you want to, the amount of times that Labour Party areas have been rebuilt and rebuilt and rebuilt and rebuilt. And then they had the bungalows, and then they had the working men's club. They've got the exact working men's club they want, with the exact bowling green, with the exact smoking room, with the exact one-arm bandit, with the exact pool room. And then they're going on the cruise holidays. The Labour is the biggest lie ever. And now many of the people are getting things for cheap or for lower prices, and they've got loads of material possessions. They're not short of material possessions, these people. The Labour dream and claim is a lie for greed. They're actually worse than the Tories. They are worse than the Conservative Party, are Labour, in their insatiable appetite for more and more and more. And it's extremely dangerous because it's present with lack of real, true knowledge and insight. They're not true spiritual intellectuals, aren't Labour, and I object to it. And if my own world that I loved is going to be obliterated and spoiled by the greed of this Labour Party. So, everywhere, Ashton-under-Lyne is going to end up, spread the borders. These people are absolutely full of greed. I grew up in a semi-detached house. Yes, we had a garden. No, it wasn't a terrace house straight on a doorstep on a pavement, but we did have a park down the road, and I would have been happy with that park if I had lived in a terraced house. I spent a lot of time in people's terrace houses. The television and the whole media and press presence is pure greed, spreading greed, and they've got no brakes on. I do not support Keir Starmer or his party. It is a selfish, obsessive party of materialism, and they are no better than the Tories. They are no better than the Conservative Party. And the Liberal Democrats and Green Party need to challenge this party. They've won with Scabs because the Conservatives, the Tories wounded themselves and they all scabbed off. So all I can say is Scabs.